Quick announcement about virtual participation. Vice Chair of the Electoral Board, Kim Phillip, will be participating virtually today. This is allowed under the electronic meeting policy the Arlington County Electoral Board adopted on June 30th of 2021. So we are happy to have Kim join us virtually today. And I will call the order meeting the Electoral Board at 9:06 a.m. And first I want to welcome Tate Ball, our new Deputy Registrar. We're very happy to have her join us. It's forward to working with you, and it's a great office, and forward to see what we'll do. Welcome.
Yes, congratulations. Happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here.
Great. Well, the first order of business today is to adopt the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was on November 30th, 2021. Just a reminder, our minutes are posted on the website for review. So, looking for a motion.
Yes, I'd move that we do so.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Great. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? No, hearing none. All right, moving on. So the Electoral Board, we organize every year. We elect a chairman, vice chairman, and secretary, and we will do that today. I've been honored to be the chairman of the Electoral Board for the last year, 2021. The way the system works is that the governor's party has 2 seats on the board, and the other party has 1. I, being a Democrat, am one of the 2 Democrats on the board now, but when my term ends at the end of the year, I will roll off and be replaced by a Republican. For that reason, I have no interest in being a lame duck, so I I suggested to Kim that I asked Kim if she wanted to be chair for the year, since she will continue serving after the turnover next year, and Kim did express an interest. So I would move that we nominate Kim to be chair of the Arlington Electoral Board.
I would second that. Kim has done very well during her first period of time on the board, bringing her community background to bear. And so I'm very happy to second the motion.
Great, and I've enjoyed working with Kim for years on various matters and other items. She's been wonderful to work with. Her board's going to be in wonderful hands, and I look forward to seeing what she does. Kim, anything to say?
Thank you for your very kind words, and yes, I'm very excited.
Great. Well, I second your motion, and I guess we'll vote have Kim be chair. So all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? None. All right. And that leads to the other position, secretary. And we've been fortunate to have Scott be our secretary for the last few years since I've been on the board, and wonderful colleague, and appreciate everything you do. And great to have you be secretary again next year. It's another requirement in the code that the secretary and chair to be different parties. So I think it makes all the sense in the world to have Scott be secretary again. So I move to have Scott be secretary.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, none. And by default, I am back to being vice chair, or as Dave Bell used to say, the chair vice. So,
If I can add.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair, congratulations. You've served very well as our chair.
Thank you.
You brought great experience to serve on this board, and I'm glad for your sake and ours that you have another year before your term comes up, so we can continue to have the benefit of your outstanding service.
Great, cool, thank you. It was a great experience, and I look forward to seeing what we'll all do this year. So with that, I will officially hand it off to Kim to take us through the rest of the agenda.
Great. Thank you so much. And I am very excited to be continuing to work with you and Scott this year. So now we come to appointment of election officers for the term of March 1st, 2022 to February 28th, 2023. Gretchen, can you give us a bit more background on that?
Yes, so each year the Electoral Board appoints election officers. They have the option of appointing them for up to 3 years, but we just appoint everybody on the year cycle to make it easier to keep track of. So what we're doing is just our annual appointment of our election officers. to serve as the individuals for the elections this year. We do still have quite a long list of people interested in working for us. I think the list still has 3,000 names on it. We will not use all 3,000 people. We are planning on using only around 250 and 450 for the respective elections this year. So.
And how many are repeats? They're all 3,000?
No, there are still several new individuals
Okay.
who applied in 2020 who we haven't been able to assign at this point.
Well, we're so fortunate to have so many people interested in serving as election officers here in Arlington, and it's part of the reason that, in elections, we have continuity and we have experience and know-how. So I think we're very fortunate to have such a large group of qualified people doing it.
There are some individuals that I would like to discuss with the electoral board about reappointing. So if possible, I would like, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess Kim, motion to go into closed session.
Okay. So it's now 9:11 a.m. I move that the electoral board go into closed session pursuant to state code section 2.2-3711A for the purposes of discussing issues related to appointment and performance of officers of election, personnel matters not related to public business, and security related to the locality voter registration system security standards.
Second.
Okay, so for those on the phone, we will go into closed session. I anticipate this taking around 15 minutes, so we will be back when we are out of closed session.
Okay, and so Gretchen, you will call me separately. Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm hang up.
Yeah, hang up and I'll get ready to call you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Thank you, Joan. Okay. You should have Kim back.
I am here, but my camera is not enabled.
Yep, I'm allowing your camera now.
Thank you. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so it is 9:23. I move that the electoral board return to public session and certify that only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements by Virginia law, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second. I guess.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, so now we need to approve the appointment. Do we now approve the election officers now at this
Yes.
point? Okay, so I move that the electoral board appoint the list of officers of election for a term to commence March 1st, 2022 until February 28th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Question. Is that the list of the election officers from the last election, pretty much that have been approved this time?
No, it's people who have applied to be election officers. So some people weren't available to work last year, so it includes those individuals.
So it's the ones who work plus the ones who.
Yeah.
Yes, we always welcome more people to apply.
Right, and then there's still the opportunity throughout the year
Yes.
for people to apply.
Yes.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is redistricting. So Gretchen, I will let you talk on that.
So, 1 second. Get to the- So the Supreme Court has released maps for the new districts, and I have given these maps to our GIS department here in Arlington for them to run some analysis to identify precincts that were split between 2 House districts. So as a result of the maps drawn by the Supreme Court, Arlington is now in 3 House districts, districts 1, 2, and 3, and 2 Senate districts, districts 39 and 40. As a result of the maps drawn by the Supreme Court, there is 1 precinct that has been split between 2 House districts. The boundary lines for this precinct will likely need to be redrawn. And this is precinct 38 along Columbia Pike. And for those familiar with the geography of Arlington, essentially there's the Sheridan on Columbia Pike and the row houses back there. They have been cut off from the rest of the precinct. In addition to curing the split precinct, we also will need to move to 2 polling locations prior to the June primary. We need to move the polling location from Overly Knolls precinct back to Cardinal School now that the school renovation has finished. And then we will need to find a new polling location for the Lexington precinct because the Lee Community Center has been closed by the county. So it's no longer available for use. And then in addition to this, we can explore different options to add additional polling locations or move some other problematic polling locations.
On the Lee Center, is that closed for a defined time?
I have not gotten that answer from them. It's closed, and it is closed until further notice.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, doesn't have any planned renovation to come back online.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
We can talk about that more offline.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
So what we are hoping to do is, I am working with the county board, and we hope to make any recommended changes available to the public for on March 11th. And then the county board will go to, what the process is, they do a request for advertising. So they'll do that in their March 19th board meeting, and they'll collect public comment on these changes for 30 days. And then they'll move to vote on the April 23rd meeting to approve the changes that were recommended. Are there any questions about that process? Okay. So here's just a closer look at what's going on in Precinct 38. So if you're familiar with the geography, this line here is Columbia Pike. And the section over by Arlington Cemetery there has been cut off. It is problematic because we cannot have them go vote in Pentagon City. They will likely have to be moved to a location north of Route 50. Because everything in Pentagon City is in a different Senate district. Okay. So basically, the area in yellow is where they could potentially be moved to. And once again, we're considering options. We'll be presenting options to the board. So that is my update on redistricting.
And just to clarify, so the maps themselves are in effect right now.
Yes.
So we're going through the process of changing locations.
Yes. So we've been given the deadline from the Department of Elections to have all voters assigned to the correct district by March 21st. Okay. So we will be assigning all voters to their correct precinct or to the correct House districts by March 21st. There's a separate code section that says that on years ending in 1, all precincts must be wholly contained in a single election district. So just running a split precinct for that precinct 38, that is the legal recommendation that should be cured, that we should have every precinct contained in a single district. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so that is where, but that can be done outside of that March 21st deadline to have voters assigned to the right district. Yeah, and then, like I said, the other polling location moves are not related to redistricting. It's more related to development and construction in this county, which is ongoing. So.
Very helpful. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
PowerPoint's impressive as always.
And I think my understanding is that under the new maps, since all the House districts are entirely within Arlington, Delegate Sullivan will no longer represent Arlington, he'll be Fairfax entirely, and Delegate Bennett Parker is also no longer representing Arlington.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if she is in the third or not. I am not familiar.
She'll lose in Alexandria.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
So then.
And then please know, as Matt probably already knew, Delegate Sullivan truly regrets Arlington departing, and so he's making the most of representing us in the meantime.
Yeah, and then House District 2, which is kind of the corridor down to the National Cemetery in Crystal City, and Pentagon City, interestingly, doesn't have an incumbent of any political office living in it. So it's a completely wide open seat. So we'll see what happens there.
Definitely a primary for that.
Yes.
And
every other resident of HD2 will be running that.
Yeah, and we have had some questions come in about who's filed to run in these seats. As of now, these House of Delegate seats are not on the ballot until 2023. And so you cannot file until January 1st of 2023. What you can do and what we are seeing candidates do is opening up a campaign committee account so that they can raise funds so that they can be in a good position to run in that seat next year, or should a special election be called later this year.
Who's done that so far?
They filed with Richmond, so I don't,
Okay.
yeah. So
I know Nicole Merlene and Adele McClure have announced their
Yes.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but they cannot officially file
Right.
anything until January 1st of 2023. I know there's some confusion about campaign filing and how candidates get on the ballot. I'll be happy to talk about that with anybody who is interested in running for office.
That's another good reason why we're unlikely to have them this year.
Yeah, you can only file the year in which the election is.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for the update.
Okay.
Okay, so next item is an update on hiring new positions.
So I did want, as we announced at the start of this meeting, we have hired our new Deputy Director of Elections. Tate did provide me with a short bio that I wanted to just read for everybody. So Tate is coming to us from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, where she was a communications specialist. In her role, she assisted the Director of Communications with managing media relations, communication strategies, and supporting the commissioners and EAC staff. Before the EAC, Tate worked at the Alabama Protection and Advocacy Group, Alabama Disabilities Advocacy Program as the voting rights advocate. While she was there, she worked alongside election administrators to help ensure that their polling sites were compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Help America Vote Act. Tate has her BS in Rehabilitation and Disability Studies and a Master's of Public Administration and a graduate certificate in Election Administration from Auburn University. In addition to this, she also did work with the Jefferson County Board of Elections down in Alabama to bring all of their, how many polling sites? 171 polling sites into ADA compliance following, I believe they were given the order by the Department of Justice that they had to be compliant. And you only had 5 months?
Well, we thought we had a year, so we put under consent decree for the next federal election. And then Jeff Sessions was nominated to the position of mayor. And so then we had a special election. So we went from having a year to having 4 months to get it done. So it was fast and furious.
Yeah, to have all 171 polling locations in Jefferson County ADA compliant.
Is Jefferson County Birmingham?
Yeah.
It's the largest county in Alabama.
It's about just under 600,000 registered voters.
Yes. Yes. So.
Very well, we're excited to have you here. It's a great
Yes.
team, great county, so I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Yep, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
Me too. Thank you.
Gretchen, the audio is a bit scratchy. I don't know if that can be corrected on your end or not.
I don't know that it can. I
Okay.
apologize. The only thing we can do is take away the presentation, which at this point, because sometimes it's the video that's causing the issue. So.
Okay.
So in addition to the deputy director, we are in the interview process. Not any better. So in addition to the deputy director, we are also in the process of hiring an outreach and communications coordinator. We should have a candidate identified by the end of next week for that. And then we have a candidate identified for the operations coordinator position, but we're waiting for a formal offer to be extended. And then we will begin recruitment for the mail ballot coordinator position once these two are confirmed. So,
That's a great lineup.
yeah. So,
Yes, it is.
Are these new positions or are these existing positions?
and that's a good question. So we had a question from Frank about whether these are new positions or existing positions. There are 2 new positions that we were awarded in the last fiscal year for a part-time mail ballot coordinator and a part-time operations coordinator to help with the increases in both early voting and vote by mail. The outreach and communications position is it was an existing position that was vacated by an employee, and we've done some internal reorganization to to reclassify this position. So, and then obviously the deputy position was vacated by Eric on November 6th of 2021, when he was granted the director of elections position over in Prince William County. So.
And I just I think these positions reflect very well our needs, and we're fortunate to be able to bring them on in this time period.
Mm-hmm.
We're fortunate the county board is willing to fund these sort of positions. Not
Yes.
every locality is willing to fund
Yeah.
election administration.
No, we're very, very fortunate that they have recognized our needs and our funding where we're growing. So that's definitely not been the case everywhere in Virginia.
Gretchen, can you just repeat one more time our new deputy's name?
Yes, her name is Tate, Tate, last name Fall, Fall. Is that correct? Okay.
I always say Tate like tater tot, otherwise I think I'm saying Kate, so.
Yes, okay, so, because it has caused a lot of confusion. I'm like, Tate, it's 4 letters, Tate.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Great, thank you.
tater tot.
Good.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda, was that it, Gretchen, for update on hiring?
Yes, that is the update on hiring.
Okay, so let us know what's going on with the renovations, because I know that's been very disruptive.
Yes, so the renovation, as Arlingtonians are aware, this building is undergoing a significant renovation and has been for the last 3 years. They have finally hit the public spaces on the first, second, and third floor. And we have been very fortunate that the county has sought to completely renovate our suite. And they will be giving us a dedicated room for early voting, enhanced security for ballots and other election materials, and more space so that we can process those mail ballots in a secure environment. And we are very excited by this renovation, but it will cause some disruption of services for the next 6 months. So we will be moving out of our suite on February 17th. We will maintain a public presence on the 3rd floor throughout the month of February and March. And then there should be some meeting rooms opening up on the 1st floor in April in time for early voting and for the primary to start in the 1st floor downstairs. In the meantime, the rest of the staff will be relocated to the 8th floor of this building. So it is going to be a challenge these next 6 months.
I'm guessing we'll post information on our website, notifying the public where they can go to.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So, and like I said, where we're going to be is our section will be closed off. We're just going to be by the bathrooms temporarily, and then we'll be moved as other spaces in the building open up. We'll be moved to better spaces.
That's all very helpful, and all this probably will be much better with better space than we should have had a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what everything looks like when it's done. So thank you for that update, Gretchen.
Yeah.
Thank goodness they didn't do it during the presidential year.
No, thank goodness they didn't do it during the presidential year.
Or even a gubernatorial year.
Yeah. And there's no ideal time for a renovation, but we're optimistic that these 6 months will be the least disruptive time that we could have chosen. So.
And it's also nicely coincides with the latest ballot.
Yes.
Yeah. Cycle.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next is review of legislation.
Yes, so I have a few updates on bills, but as anybody who knows the legislative session, things move quickly. And while I updated this list at 3 o'clock yesterday, it is entirely possible that it is no longer up to date. So I'm sure Scott is familiar with this phenomenon.
Yes.
Okay.
There's Matt.
Yes. So I'm just going to go through and do the kind of hit list on bills that were flagged by the Registrar Association of things to pay attention to. So we'll start with HB 55, which just increases the frequency that the Department of Elections notifies us about deaths in Virginia, essentially. So that we do it once a month. They want it done on a more frequent, once a week or twice a month. This has passed the House, and it is likely to pass. HB 195 allows polling places to be established more than 1 mile from a precinct with authorization from the Department of Elections. This has passed the House. This is something that's unlikely to impact Arlington. because by the time you've hit a mile from a precinct, you've actually hit 2 precincts away, and we would never want a polling location that far away from somebody.
I'm guessing that's mostly for rural.
It's for rural, it's gotta be for rural places. HB 39, changes the hours of in-person absentee. So it reduces it from 45 days before election to 14 days before the election. It mandates that every office be open Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that could have cost savings or cost more money. It's really how you implement it. So that has passed the P&E committee at the House. Senate Bill 39 would allow for party identification of constitutional officers on the ballot. I have a note that has passed the Senate, but I feel like that one might have been updated.
And that bill's been floating around for years, right?
Yeah.
It's even gotten to the
Yes.
point where it passed both chambers in a different form, and they couldn't agree to it in
Yes.
committee.
Yep.
So
And
this would be.
yeah, and I know, and yeah, there is a great deal of difference of opinion even among constitutional officers across the Commonwealth. So,
Yes.
yeah.
We have a unique situation here where it's been tradition. So many file elsewhere it's independent and are very proud of that.
Yeah. So. Senate Bill 222 mandates campaign finances be filed electronically. This would have no impact in Arlington. Everybody filed electronically for years anyway. Senate Bill 273 would allow a voter to list the last 4 digits of their social and date of birth on a mail ballot in lieu of a witness signature. This one has passed the Senate, and it is based on recommendations from a working group formed to study alternatives to a witness signature.
Well, that would probably make things a little bit easier processing, right?
We'd have to look up every voter to confirm that it's their correct information. HB 185 repeals same-day registration. This has passed the House. HB 490.
But that same-day registration isn't going to affect. It will go into effect.
It would, yeah, this fall, same-day registration would go into effect. So this is a bill to repeal that. HB 492 changes campaign finance retention records. HB 544. This one's an interesting one. So it allows the voter to opt in to being required to show a photo ID when they vote in person.
They have to opt in to show ID.
So when they register to vote, they can say, I want you to ask me for a photo ID when I show up to vote in person.
So I recall that's Delegate Ronnie Campbell's bill. It's a very unique approach.
Yeah.
And I imagine he introduced it hoping that it might gather enough support in the Senate without an effort there to restore, which it already has been made, to restore the requirement of voter ID, which I don't think would pass the Senate.
So that one has passed the House. So that one was an interesting approach. So. State 80 prohibits local elections officials from accepting certain gifts. That has passed the Senate. Senate.
Just that was aimed at largely at the contributions that were made through Gates Foundation and others, and both the ire of the new majority in the House.
What did the Gates Foundation give?
I believe it's actually Zuckerberg. And,
I'm sorry, that's what I meant.
So in the presidential election, the Center for Civic Life and Technology granted funds to election jurisdictions across Virginia. It turns out the funder behind these grants was Mark Zuckerberg primarily. So I will say jurisdictions had no knowledge of where the funding was coming from because they had nothing disclosed to them. So.
And it was seen by those who opposed it as being aimed at particular areas and particular candidates.
So Senate Bill 371 would change the composition of the State Board of Elections from a 3-member or 5-member board to an 8-member board, and it would have granted them the authority to appoint the Commissioner of Elections. That has passed Senate P&E, but it is struggling on the floor. There have been a couple of amendments that, yeah. Is that correct?
Yes, that's an excellent summary along with all the others. Yes, I've observed that debate on the floor. Senator Vogel's doing a fine job on it, but it is struggling.
Yeah.
It's interesting, they've been tinkering with that for a couple of years because they did an overhaul of the state board of elections years ago.
Yes. It's unusual that there'd be such back-to-back efforts, yes. Which reminds me, since you mentioned the commissioner, that I saw at cross paths with Chris Piper the other day, and thank him for all of his great service.
Yeah, I think he announced
And we'll miss him.
yesterday, the day before he's leaving in March.
Yes, I read a story that he announced his last day would be March 11th.
That he served well.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the current way it's done is the governor decides who's the commissioner. Right?
Yes. I will note that when the bill was originally introduced to create that position, it was appointed by the state board, but that was changed to be a governor appointment when that bill. So I noticed this back and forth. Part of the reason the back and forth is the original intent of that bill. There are some that feel it was never actualized. It was never meant to be a governor appointment, that position.
That was the main crux of the effort to change the board composition
Yeah,
in the first place.
yeah.
I
So,
think Commissioner Piper, you did a wonderful job, and I think you found out officially or unofficially via a radio show that he wasn't going to be retained. That's unfortunate, but I think he did a wonderful job, and wishing the best.
When I saw him the other day, he was very gracious as all.
Senate Bill 3 will require election results from the mail ballot and early voting precincts to be reported by precincts. There are a couple different versions of this bill. Some require us to sort ballots by precinct, which would be very onerous in large jurisdictions. If not, we probably would still be sorting ballots from the 2020 presidential election by precinct. That would be very difficult for us. So that seems to have been removed from most of the bills that are still alive, and so it's just a matter of reporting results by precincts.
And had Senator Souter line has championed that for several years, and it's gotten more momentum this time. And it's interesting that I think part of an unsaid background on that is that in addition to the principle of them being reported the new way, the members of the assembly would like to have a better read on their strength in their precincts.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. If you know, particularly in the presidential year, if a huge number of your votes are done early voting and you don't know which precinct they're coming from, you have no idea. And the election day results from your precinct aren't really reflective of how you did. So.
The Senate Bill 370. Let's see. This is a bill that requires risk limiting audits, and there has been. It's currently with the Finance Committee, and there has been some back and forth on this. The original version of this bill would have required a risk limiting audit to be conducted within 7 days of the election. Because it was a pre-certification requirement, and the Electoral Board only has 7 days to certify the election. And like I said, and if an audit, the way the audits work, if you don't get the result you expect the first time, it can keep going through until where you're hand counting every single ballot, and that would be all but impossible for Fairfax County to do in a week. So they have changed it. So they are delaying the local and state certifications when a risk limiting audit is being requested. So it's still a pre-certification audit, but they are pushing back the certification deadlines by a week, essentially. Let's see. There's another Bill SB 390 that would require annual post-election audits. That was passed by indefinitely in the Senate. HB 54 is the same. It required ballots to be, mail ballots to be sorted and results reported by precinct. That has been laid on the table. HB 927 requires ballots to be sorted by precinct and reported by precinct. As you can see, there's a lot of ballots around this reporting absentee ballots by precincts. So we are likely to see some version of that to pass this time. And then HB 1090 requires that voter identification contain a photo. This has been reported out of committee on the House side, but the companion bill in the Senate has been passed by. So that's where we are. Do you have any other insights, Scott?
Well, yes, thanks. You did a great job of giving the flavor there, and as always, I'm happy to do any work on any of these issues or others as the bills are amended. And I crossed paths. I was in to visit with Delegate Sullivan on an energy bill. I came out and there was Bob Brink. For those of you who might not be familiar, Delegate Brink represented the 48th district in the House and has been the most recent chair of the State Board of Elections. And he has this. He was there to see Delegate Sullivan with respect to Senate Joint Resolution 33, which would directs the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission to conduct a study on the elections governance structure in the Commonwealth. And in so doing, the roles and responsibilities of state and local election officials, the administration and conduct of elections in the Commonwealth, including the level of oversight of by state election officials and the degree of decision-making by local election officials. Review the accountability structure present for both state and local election officials. Finally, review the methods of selection and removal of state and local election officials and evaluate such methods with respect to accountability and evaluate the potential partisan pressures and influence in administrative decisions in the state and local election level. And on that last point, we have never, ever, ever had that here in all my time on this board. And he mentioned that this was, and it's patroned by Senator McCollum. He's a very highly respected member of the House of Senate who, as you may recall, was a candidate for governor. And this is because of issues which you may have read involving other boards, other local electoral boards and registrars, directors of elections that are unfortunate and have gotten so much press and attention by legislators that it's risen to this level. It just tells me how proud I am of this board and our current board, our predecessors. But this is what happens when there's an issue elsewhere that it can lead to an effort. There are things that would indeed affect all of us. And so this was referred to the Committee on Rules, and I'll keep you in touch on this. In the meantime, we're going to make the most of the chance to serve.
Would that require a vote, or could the governor just say we're going to do this study?
Oh, as a joint resolution, it needs to pass the Senate and pass the House, and it. My sense is it's got some momentum, and so I'll keep in touch on it.
Well, yeah, well, if it passes, I think it would be a very interesting report on how election administration works in Virginia.
Yes.
And I don't think such a similar report exists right now, right? So.
Yes.
There have been reports to study the position of the general registrar, just from kind of an HR perspective.
Yes.
So yeah. if it's something like that, I was not aware of that one, Scott, thank you.
Okay, so that's why I'm here.
Well, thanks for the update. I think, if I had to guess, given the political composition in the House and Senate, not much in the way of, significant substantive bills are going to make it through, unlike the last few years, but we might get some technical tweaks here and there. But
Yeah,
I think a lot of things will pass one chamber and not pass the other, and vice versa. So.
yeah, that seems to be the way things are going. So.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot of bills. Every year it's a lot of bills. So thank you for that update. So other business, budget hearing on March 17th.
Yes, so the electoral, we will be presenting our budget for the next fiscal year to the county board on March 17th, along with the other constitutional offices in Arlington County. So, and the only other item is the VIVA conference. So I have been contacted by VIVA, and they need to know who is going, and we need to get our registration forms in ASAP. So, Tim, I will be emailing you the registration form. Or if you have any questions, let me know. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned I'll be out of town.
Yes.
And I brought the,
Okay. Have you pulled one out yet?
no, I brought.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
No, he doesn't need one.
Right, that's right. We'll miss you.
Okay. With that, I have no other. Are there any other?
I don't have anything else. Scott or Matt, do either of you have anything else?
Madam Chair, you did a very fine job in chairing your first meeting.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. And if I recall correctly, we're required to meet in March by statute, right?
Yes,
So
we are required to meet in March.
Okay. So I'll send an email.
Kim, we have a question from Frank here.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, Kim. What everybody's, the same-day registration, what is the likelihood that will be the policy coming in, I guess, in November? And what would be the implications then for the electoral office?
So that's a good question. So for those who didn't hear, it's just what is the likelihood that same-day registration will be the policy for November? I cannot answer that question.
99%.
I would say that is entirely up to the House and Senate. How the process works in other places is that it's similar to a provisional ballot. So when somebody is registering to vote and voting on the same day, their ballot is placed in an envelope with the documentation supporting their claim to vote in our community. So a lease statement or whatever that, like I said, I'm not sure exactly how it would work in Virginia. And then those ballots are adjudicated after the election when the eligibility for the registration can be determined. Does that make sense? So they're held the same way a provisional ballot is. So.
And would the DOE issue regulations? Or?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The Department of Elections will have to issue guidance, forms, envelopes, all of that stuff. So.
That's a good summary. And if I can add mine, this was, I remember being in the House Villages and Elections Committee when this bill was considered 2 years ago, and it was a major priority for the then House majority. And this is one of those bills where it's hard to predict in the Senate with a 21-19 and a new lieutenant governor. I think I'd be surprised if this bill passed the Senate. I think so.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, just keep in mind too, Scott, can correct me if I'm wrong, the way committee composition is made up in the Senate, even though it's 21-19 for the total body, most committees are what, 9-6?
Yes.
Yep.
So
Yes.
I very much doubt the Democratic-led P&E committee would pass a repeal.
They're going to be killing a lot of House bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's likely to die in the P&E committee on the Senate side.
I think so.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes, yes, as we've noted, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Either way it should go.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Janet, Joan, Judy, do either of you have questions? It looks like we lost Lisa.
Actually, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, Janet, I can hear you.
Hi, I have a real quick question. If by some chance that law passes that requires the information to be sorted by precinct, do we have any idea how we would manage it at the satellite level?
Yes and no. So I think it's unlikely that we'll have to sort ballots by precinct. What is likely is that we will report ballots by precinct, which means that we would need a ballot style for each precinct. I did put in a request for ballot on demand printing solution so that when somebody checked it on the poll book, it would print their ballot for them automatically. That budget request was denied, unfortunately. So we're going to have to find a way to make this happen. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, if there no further questions, everyone, I apologize for the audio on the meeting. I guess maybe it's an IT issue, and we'll see what we can do to get this straightened out for the next time. But in the meantime, it is 10:04, and I would like to go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Yeah, thank you.
And again, thank you. Again, congratulations, Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us once again for the meeting.
Very
Informative.
It was helpful.